there is this power. And this kind of subtle manifestation is also inexhaustible and unchanging. The deeper you go, the more profound it becomes. This is something that no book in the world can achieve. He has such a strong influence. What he talks about, his theories and methods, are eternally unchanging, transcending time and space. In ancient times, 3,000 years ago, the achievements gained by following these theoretical methods. Now, 3,000 years later, modern people can also be saved using this method and theory. It transcends time. In ancient times, Indians achieved success using this method, and now Chinese people can also achieve success using this approach, transcending space. Going down, works that transcend time and space. This is the truth. The law is the principle. Practicing according to this method will determine success. So classic crew carry out. Long hair 404. So we've introduced the topic of the scriptures here. Altogether, this scripture is the Kitigaba Bodhisattva's fundamental vows. We practice and study according to the theories and methods of this scripture. Achieve oneself and create the Dharma path. With this as the foundation, one can establish all Mahayana Buddhism. Establish a Pure Land Buddhism. If we speak without this foundation, no matter what Buddhist teachings, they cannot be established. All Mahayana teachings and Pure Land practices are built on this foundation. Immediately, this technique has no recurrence. This point is more important than anything else. So, to truly say that one hopes to achieve this Dharma path in this life, it cannot be overlooked. One must earnestly practice and study. Next, let's look at this. The human body. That is the person who translates this sutra. Turn! In heaven, Sanzang came to check and tried to take off his clothes. The translator of the sutras is very important. It also helps us to develop faith. The sutras were translated from Sanskrit in India, which was spoken by Buddha Shakyamuni during his lifetime. To discern that it is not a forgery. It's not like a domestic hen hatching eggs, or some deity coming down. It cannot inspire deep trust. The waiter thing. When I was very young, it seems like when I was in primary school, I was nearby. We see that the atmosphere in Fujian and Hunan is quite profound. I see their approach, and I have confidence, because the people from Fulan are on the sand table. That's also quite meticulous. This Luan graduation is also called an ambush in terms of taking down. They carved a dragon's head. When the dragon's tongue sinks down, that's the pen barrel. Using a little clumsy chicken is also quite decorative and very aesthetically pleasing. The people from Funan, well, mostly are in this. on the street, looking for some divers, selling firewood. During the time of the war, before the war, generally households didn't have running water and had to buy water. There were people specifically selling water. These people couldn't read. You buy vegetables. They hadn't been to school, couldn't read, so they would just find them on the street and ask them to help. So the characters written on the sand table, we all recognize that he wrote them neatly. Not messy at all. Each stroke takes about half an hour to write out. They can write dozens of characters. Then I record it. I really believe in that. Because they themselves can't read. Especially not fixed people. Just anyone you find at any time. I really trust him. When I saw that in Taiwan, I just couldn't believe it. Why? The people from Hunan are definitely a set group. This ambush is a fixed person. Moreover, when it starts up, what's inside says it's moving, but we can't make out a single character. And when he reads it out loud, it's done in about half an hour, 1,000 or 2,000 characters. To be honest, I don't believe that. It's obviously fake, not real. This Buddhist scripture isn't. These ghosts and gods, this nonsense, is indeed translated from Sanskrit, from India. There are specific periods of translation, places where scriptures were translated, and the people involved are enough to prove their authenticity. It's in the topic of Ant-Man. This dynasty represents a period of time. Representing time. So this is the Tang dynasty, the era of the Tang. This translating monk we also need to understand. In ancient times, it wasn't just one person. There was a movement for national development. National development. This is the place of the I Ching. Many people participate in this work. The knowledge within it also needs to be distributed very finely. So this Ant-Man is an extraordinary leader. It seems he is from the Institute of Inheritance, and he is the director. All these translations are done under his name. He is responsible. In such an institution, the officer is like that. This work might be done by his subordinates. There are many masters and lay practitioners involved in this. They participate in the I Ching work. Once gold is formed, it is done under his name, and he is responsible. Just like in a government organization are the officers in the government, like a mayor. This mayor issues all these documents and announcements, and it's his secretary, the head of the research department, Titan, who drafts them. He has reviewed them. He has reviewed them before they are published and stamped. It's his name, and he is responsible. We must understand that it doesn't necessarily mean he translated it himself. This master is from the kingdom of Yuqian, which is in present-day Xinjiang. During the Tang dynasty, it was a small country in the western regions. This explains the master's place of origin, whether he is male or female. In what era did it appear? The Tang represents the era, while Khotan represents his place of origin. The title Tripitaka Master represents his qualifications. He is usually referred to as the Tripitaka Master, but out of modesty, he doesn't dare to be called a master, instead using the term Shramana. Shramana is a very humble title. In modern terms, it would be called a student. someone who is learning. Those who are learning don't dare to take advantage of their status as students. We are equals, classmates. What about the Tripitaka? This must be understood if one does not comprehend the Tripitaka. They are not qualified to translate. To translate, one must certainly understand the Tripitaka. Only then do they have the qualifications to strive forward. Having studied the Tripitaka, they have comprehended it all. Shramana is a Sanskrit term. In ancient India, anyone who renounced worldly life would be referred to as such. It need not be Buddhism. There are those who renounce worldly life and practice in other religions as well, like Brahmanism, the Yoga Sutras. Anyone who renounces worldly life and practices becomes a Shramana. After the term of Shramana was introduced to China, it became a specific title for Buddhist monks. Its meaning is diligently practicing precepts, meditation, and wisdom will extinguish greed, hatred, and ignorance. So this is referred to as a Shramana, right? So this is a humble title for a master. Seshanath is also a Sanskrit term. It's a transliteration. In Chinese, it translates to joyful learning. Joyful learning. It's a translation. So I won't elaborate much on that. Right. This. Master Shichan Nanchuo. Remove this. Here. In China. There's one more step. It's about the Avatamsaka Sutra, which everyone is currently reciting. This 80-volume text was also translated by him. So, he made significant contributions to Chinese Buddhism. We are reading the scriptures here. The person who transmits the teachings. We must not forget this great kindness and virtue. Without his translations, we wouldn't be able to read the German classics. Without the great virtues of our ancestors, passed down through generations, we wouldn't have the chance to encounter this work. So, we have a grateful heart towards the ancestors of all generations. Come have a look. Gratitude must be repaid. To repay kindness, one must study earnestly. This is the true way to repay the fourfold kindness. Being able to repay kindness surely means one can help those in need. Repaying kindness and alleviating suffering is an important matter. Your acts of gratitude allow all beings to see. By doing good deeds, one can raise the flag. It is possible. Awareness allows one to turn back and make a fresh start, achieving the true effect of helping others. This scripture has a total of 10 to 13 chapters. The lower grade, it's a continuation, but its essence is called the Peach and Plum Sky, Divine Powers. In this scripture, Buddha sacrifices himself. Shakyamuni, Buddha is performing for us to see. He is in this world, the heart of the world. Military, attainment of the path. Teaching, what is referred to as transforming sentient beings. The affinity for educating sentient beings. It's almost time for the conclusion. Shakyamuni Buddha, he is to demonstrate his nirvana. Before this, especially for us in advance, to repay our mother's kindness. So after the world-honored one's birth, we see in the scriptures that his mother passed away. His mother was born in Tailaiting. So he must go to the heavenly palace to teach the Dharma for his mother. Staying in the peach and plum fields for 2 to 3 months. Teaching his mother refers to this section on Kitagarbha Bodhisattva, the original vows. This performance in the Tushita heaven is very, very extraordinary. The world-honored one speaks to us about Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's past causes and conditions, saving these for his mother. Regarding the case and its connections, we usually talk about stories. I hope that, after listening, we can be inspired to learn and emulate Kitagarbha Bodhisattva. Lay the foundation for Mahayana practice. This is a bottle of golden butterfly. The meaning is profound. Now let's look at the scripture. At the beginning of the scripture, thus have I heard. At one time, the Buddha was in the Tushita heaven, teaching the Dharma to his mother. This is a bit different from the beginnings of other scriptures. But it's not the full words in Russian. Simply put, it's the person compiling the scriptures who says, we are currently discussing the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's Fundamental Vows Sutra. The demons are the venerables who claim to have personally heard what the Buddha said, not just hearsay. Personally heard what the Buddha said. Just like Elder Lee mentioned in the Avatamsaka Sutra. Venerable Wonin is here for us to speak again. This sutra, every word and sentence is as the Buddha said, is what the Buddha said. I definitely wouldn't dare to mix in even a hint of my own opinion. This is the meaning of our 4 words. Thus, at that moment, it was very, very clear. 3 months before the Buddha's parinirvana. But it's still better to use her at that moment. At that moment. It resonates more when you're at home. Missing the path during the celebration. So the meaning of consciousness is very, very intelligent. Very, very complete. If you record the year, month, day and time, this method has already passed. Won't come again. It was a good match. For a while, he wasn't. Like the master of wisdom from the past, Tiantai. He often reads the Lotus Sutra in Fuyin. Unknowingly, he entered a meditative state. In meditation, he saw the Buddha Shakyamuni speaking about the Lotus Sutra on Mount Gradrakuta. He sat there and listened for a while. After his meditation, he told others that the world-honored one spoke about the Lotus Sutra on Mount Gradrakuta. It truly is as the world-honored one said in the Lotus Sutra. The phenomena of the world are ever present. In modern times, Einstein also said that the past, present, and future exist simultaneously. So where's the problem now? The past and present need to connect with the future. How can we break through this time? Well, scientists now know that the past, present, and future exist simultaneously, but there's no way to break through. If you could, you'd be able to go back to the past and also enter the future. So in other words, you would know everything about the past and future, you would be clear on it all. They don't know what method to use to break through. They want to use science. This machinery. But in reality, in Buddhism, they use meditation. They use the skill of meditation. The deeper your concentration, the more you can break through this aspect, sunlight. So we can truly experience it. The wise master has been able to break through with this meditation for 2,000 years. His era is about 1,400 years away from us now. Julie, Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, should be just under 2,000 years. About 17 or 1,800 years. He was able to break through such a significant in that period, one can still see the world-honored one teaching on Vulture Peak. Now the number of people is like time flowing backwards. If he can return to the past, it proves there's a certain charm. This night market is when one is completely focused. Being completely focused is like meditation. Why can't we go back to the past now? We can't, can we? What about stepping into the future? Our hearts are in chaos. We have too many delusions and attachments, so this ability is lost. We must understand that this ability cannot be. What should be there is no longer present. The instinct that should exist has been lost. So Buddhism teaches us to practice meditation. The Pure Land teachings guide us to chant the Buddha's name with a focused mind. Your focused mind. To be honest, you can achieve a steady ambition. There's no issue between 3,000 years ago and 3,000 years later. You must understand if the rituals are disrupted first, You have comprehended everything about the transformation of the pure void and the realms of the past and future. Your ability is almost on par with the Buddhas and Tathagatas. At one moment, it is correct. This is something we should admire. All right, we'll stop here for today. Amitabha, Buddha. Amitabha. Amitabha Buddha. Amitabha Buddha.